been reading the tarot for a long time, 23 years as a matter of fact. A lot has changed over the years. Do you remember when it was really hard to find things on tarot in a bookstore? Yeah, I do. Everyone loves a good throwback, so I wanted to share some of the things I've noticed about the community that has changed from when I started to now. And remember, if I miss anything that you have found in your tarot community or even in your tarot practice or the world in general around tarot, let me know in the comments below. Back then, there were not as many decks on the market, and I mean, it exploded. There were fewer options to us, and even fewer options if you were looking for diversity in your deck. Many publishing houses weren't taking the risks of publishing decks that were outside the box and showed a diverse number of people and representations. Now, there are so many tarot decks to the point that it is a little too much in regards to overwhelmingness when someone is trying to get into tarot or try to find that perfect deck. And the diversity is exquisite. That is something I don't think we can get enough of. The different diversities in archetypes, the way we're expressing ourselves through the tarot, the way we're being seen through the tarot, the way authors are expressing themselves, artists are expressing themselves, and reaching a larger market. I think that's such a positive, and the fact that there are more decks out there means that there's more options for everyone to be able to find something that fits them and that they feel really resonates with them. Back then, indie deck creators and publishing houses were rarely heard of. They were not something that was well known, and we really didn't have a lot of independent options, or they weren't really heard of. I'm talking about back before Etsy was even a thing. Now, and I really want to say, I think the tipping point for this was really Kim Kranz's Wild Unknown. It went off. Like, I remember when she was touring, I went and saw her, and she did that big tour of the West Coast, and it was crazy just how many people really resonated with that. And Kim really helped the tarot become much more seen. And then Etsy showed up, and then Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and really this beautiful gateway, and these options were open to people who wanted to create their own decks that weren't available to them before. If you put your deck or your art to a publisher and they said no, then that was really the door closed for you back then. Now they could go on DeviantArt and create a portfolio, create something, prints and things on Etsy, and then create more of a body of work. Kickstarter and Indiegogo changed the game. Etsy changed the game, and it meant the marketplace was better for it, and artists were also better for it as well. Back then, it was really hard to find any literature on tarot, and you really had to look. Not only that, I remember it was such a thing where you went into, and I don't know if this was just a thing in Australia, so let me know if it wasn't. You go into a bookstore and all their metaphysical books, all their tarot books were like covered in plastic, so you couldn't even like flick through them and look at them. Sometimes they were even behind glass shelves that were locked because apparently people steal tarot decks a lot. Like, that's a great way to start your tarot, you working with the tarot. But yeah, you couldn't flick through things, you could look through them. I remember when aeclectictarot.net, which is no longer available, started posting reviews of showing people samples of decks. That was a game changer. But back then you couldn't really see anything. Now, if you are curious about a deck, you are probably gonna find a number of flip throughs on YouTube. People can put videos on their Etsy listings, on their Amazon listings. You're probably gonna be able to find the artist's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you freaking name it. There's a lot more communication in tarot communities, in like groups like the Tarot Readers Academy in Facebook, and Tarot Nerds and Tarot Marketplace, just to name a few. For Love of Cards is another really good one. So you can find information about a deck, and that is really great because it gives people more information. And you can also find tarot books freaking everywhere, gift stores. I mean, Disney is on the tarot train. This is where we're at. Mickey fucking Mouse took a look at an esoteric system and went, I'm gonna put some fucking ears on those things and make some money. Like, this is where we're at right now. I'm not mad about it because I love Disney, but it's so popular now that this is the state of play. You can find it everywhere, and a deck for everybody. This is also contributed by the fact that tarot is much more mainstream and a lot of people are reading. There's more self-development. There's been a big rise of modern witchcraft and tarot, and This is something that's really been around for a long time, but now it is much more mainstream. Back then, you had to do most of your reading face-to-face. I remember reading in stores and I would have to go in and I would have to audition and give a reading to the manager or someone there to say that I knew what I was talking about. I read in markets, at psychic fairs, would read all weekend and then go back to a full-time job. And there were telephone readers, but that was usually more synonymous with like 1-800-SCAMALOT.com.au/$6 a minute. Now you've got so many options. We do most things, especially, post-pandemic, online. People are still reading in stores. I think that's freaking amazing. I'm an extrovert. I love that human connection. I can't wait to do workshops again and go back to conferences. But being online is so much a part of the world right now. Like, everyone's got a website. If you don't, I don't even know what you're doing as running a tarot business. There are Google reviews, there are reviews on Facebook. You are much more in touch and in communication with your clients. It's just become a faster paced sort of instant reaction. Whereas like if you're a popular reader, you probably have your books booked out months in advance, even online, but it definitely shifted from more of a in-person to an online industry. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because it's given people more flexibility, but it's definitely like the percentage shifted quite a bit. Another big contributing factor to this is social media and how everyone is using social media for everything. So if you're a tarot reader, you probably have a number of social media outlets that you use, and people are not afraid of putting themselves out there, especially as it feeds into the last point that tarot has become more mainstream. So the more we put something out there, the more we're probably going to be attracting that back, and booking your tarot clients is exactly the same. Back then, tarot was seen more as this entertainment, let's book it for a gig, let's have it at a party. I mean, I remember doing corporate Christmas parties and I was like the gig, I was the entertainment. I've done that for many things. Like I've been to an IKEA opening and have seen a fellow tarot reader be there as, free entertainment. And that still happens, right? We're still classed under law protection as entertainment purposes only. Unless you are a registered counselor or anything like that, or a lawyer. There are many readers who have other professions. Whereas now we're seen as that still to a large number of people, but tarot is being put into so many different things. There are artists that give tarot readings and then will give you a tattoo based on the intuitive working of that reading and their tattoo style. There are people who work tarot into their counseling practice. There are people who work tarot into their healing practice. There are people who use it to break down and work with different Jungian archetypes. We work with it with magic. There is so much that tarot has touched because of its universal archetypes and its collective consciousness speaking through a language of symbols, that it's really this amazing collaborative work now that is not just seen as entertainment, but deep spiritual work, magical work, healing work, artistic work, and it's really quite fabulous because the more people lend their own perspectives to tarot, the more we're learning about ourselves and the tarot itself. Remember the time when the fortune-telling stereotype was also extremely racist to the Romani people, but that was kind of what it was like the old green witch with the haggard nose and all that kind of shit. It was the same thing, but a lot more racist, let's be honest, to the Romani people with that gypsy. I don't even like really using that word in that context. So, but if I say that, people are probably going to remember the vision of like the person with the headscarf, with everything. And it was really this, like, you are a part of this subculture and not acknowledging the deep, beautiful peoples that are the Romani that were, trying to be wiped out through genocide. I know that got real deep there, but there were those stereotypes that we were sitting in, and now you've got people who look like everybody else, walking around with tattoos of tarot and being in corporate boardrooms and running their own businesses, being parents, doing whatever they want to do, and it's really allowing people to see that everyone from different walks of life can use the tarot. Back then, we didn't really have anything that was designed and built for kids in regards to oracle and tarot decks and tweens and teens. Now there are a plethora of decks for children, teens and tweens that allow them to use that symbolic language to understand themselves better and the world around them. It's really quite beautiful, and even young teens and kids are drawing their own decks, whether they are just an exploration deck or a full tarot deck. It's allowing them to get in touch with their spiritual side. I mean, what is brilliant about children being seen as more of an emotionally intelligent beings and not being talked down to as much, and speaking to them in a way that honors their intelligence and their intuition, is that they're meditating now, whereas that wasn't really a thing. Some schools have meditation. They're talking about their feelings and understanding their feelings and having conversations about spirituality, if they can, at a younger age, and that's reflected in the marketplace of how many tarot decks are available for children. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, how I found the tarot, how I found my magical side and what it means to me, check out this playlist, and thank you so much for watching.